Welcome, everyone. I am Roger Hartley. I'm Dean of the College of Public Affairs at the University of Baltimore. And on behalf of President Schmoke, our provost, and our entire university, I'm really pleased to welcome you to our new speaker series, Voices of Public Service. This is a fantastic opportunity, and we have advertised it quite widely, but I wanted to begin by saying that this series is focused mainly on students. We really wanted to have students have the opportunity to learn from the journey of the careers of leaders in public service, to learn about the values of public service, and to have an opportunity to interact as well and ask questions. I wanted to start in this introduction and welcome by just telling you a little bit more about the series. Then after that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ann Cotton to tell you a little bit about the Schaefer Center for Public Policy, which is our primary leader and sponsor of this series. And then we'll introduce our guest today, Ms. Stacy Rodgers. Very pleased, but I wanted to give you a sense of this series and why it's really meaningful to us. And I want to provide some thank yous at the outset. The Voices of Public Service is a monthly series sponsored by our William Donald Schaefer Center for Public Policy and its new, relatively new, Public Service Academy. It's also sponsored by, of course, the University of Baltimore College of Public Affairs. And because this is about career journeys, we've also been really thrilled to partner with Ms. Lakeisha Matthews in her incredible UBalt Career and Internship Center, which is in our division at UBalt, which is affectionately known to us as Quad S, Student Success and Student Support. The series is a monthly series that gives students an opportunity to learn about public service careers from seasoned professionals. Guest speakers in this series include and will include government and nonprofit leaders, elected officials, business leaders who have made a civic contribution to our society, our state, our city, our region, but also our world. And so what I wanted to say at the outset is this is the inaugural, very first speaker in this series, but we have more coming. And we will be sending around very soon news of our upcoming speakers in March, April, and May. And we're already scheduling speakers, and I'll give you a heads up on some of those to come soon. We're already scheduling speakers for our fall semester as well. The other thing that I wanted to say at the outset is the vision of Dr. Ann Cotton and myself and our faculty on this was that this wouldn't be only for College of Public Affairs students, that this is designed for students from all majors and all programs across the University of Baltimore and others who are interested in attending the University of Baltimore. The reason, of course, is that public service careers and jobs include backgrounds from every major that you can imagine at the University of Baltimore, in the College of Law, in the Merrick School of Business, and in our College of Arts and Sciences as well. We have in our public sector students that majored in history, or students that majored in finance, or students that majored in IT. So you don't have to major in government to go into public service. And in fact, public service wants leaders from every field that's represented at this university and others. I also wanted to say that along this journey, be on the lookout for some other really exciting things that we're going to be doing this semester that will also be part of the Schaefer Center's incredible Public Service Academy. Be on the lookout for opportunities for paid fellowships and paid internships, like our Community Development Fellows program, which is in the Schaefer Center. Also be on the lookout for a Rosencrantz Municipal Government Fellowship, and many internships connected to our programs that can get you into the fields of public service and on track for careers. And finally, I wanted to just put down on your calendar this event. It's amazing. And actually, Ms. Stacy Rodgers is one of the reasons we have this event every year. Be on the lookout March 31st for our annual Day in Annapolis, which will this year be a virtual event again, where you'll have the opportunity to meet with and ask questions of members of our state delegation, the House of Delegates, the State Senate, and learn from also UB alums who are serving in the State House and work with the legislature. So March 31st, 2:30 to about 4:45 is the day that we will have that. I wanted to, before I go on any further, introduce Dr. Ann Cotton, who is the incredible executive director of our William Donald Schaefer Center for Public Policy, to kick off next. And then we'll introduce our speaker and we'll start the interview.
Thanks so much, Dean Hartley. Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the Schaefer Center for Public Policy, I'm thrilled to be here today for our inaugural speaker and our Voices of Public Service speaker series. Stacy Rodgers is a phenomenal public servant, and you'll learn more about her great career. I've had the pleasure of working with her through the Schaefer Center in many of her different roles, and I'm really excited to have her here today. As Dean Hartley was mentioning, our Public Service Academy is a new initiative of the Schaefer Center where we're bringing together opportunities for students to work in the public sector through our Community Development Fellows program, where students work in Main Street organizations in Baltimore. And we have students from all across the university working there in that program. They do things from grant writing. They also go out and help with marketing Main Street initiatives. They do web design. So all types of skills are needed. As Dean Hartley was saying, all skills are needed in public service. Everything that a business does gets done in public service. So this is a great opportunity for students. And our Rosencrantz Fellows program, this is for municipal government, and Baltimore County has been a great sponsor of that program, hosting our first Rosencrantz Fellow. So we're excited about this initiative and what it means for us in the future and opportunities for students to get into public service. For those of you who don't know the Schaefer Center, we're an applied research and consulting division within the College of Public Affairs, and we work for government and nonprofit organizations to help make their programs and more efficient, more effective. We do program evaluation, survey research, strategic planning. We also have a number of professional development programs, including the Maryland Certified Public Manager Program, which Baltimore County is now sending 6 executives to this program, and it's wonderful to have them in our program. We have the Maryland Equity Inclusion Leadership Program that we offer in conjunction with the Maryland Commission on Civil Rights. So lots of great things happening at the Schaefer Center, and I'm thrilled to turn it back over to Dean Hartley so we can get on with our speaker.
Thank you so much, Ann. And again, I want to thank you for helping organize this series and the incredible work that you and your team do in the Schaefer Center. And I also want to reach out again and say thank you to our incredible Career and Internship Center at the University of Baltimore. To the students who are on this webinar right now, I can't emphasize enough how much you should go interact with and visit the Career and Internship Center at UB. They provide some of the most amazing support on your career journey, whether you're changing fields or going into a new field. So I highly recommend Lakeisha Matthews' team so very much. One or two bits of housekeeping before I finally introduce our speaker, who I am just delighted about. A couple things. The way our event will work today is we're going to do about 45 minutes to an hour of an interview where we are going to ask Stacy questions about her career, about public service and others. And we're going to see where she takes these answers. And I think you're going to find her journey beyond amazing. The other thing I wanted to mention is that we have the opportunity set aside for you to ask questions. There are 2 ways that you can ask questions, but one is preferred. At the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Q&A function. Please type your questions later when we get into that period of our event into the Q&A, and then Dr. Cotton and I will pose those to Ms. Rodgers. And if you put it in the chat, we'll be looking there too, but it's a little bit better if you're in the Q&A area. And again, we'll end around 5:30. So without any more talk from me, I want to say 2 things. First of all, part of this is going to be what will be a formal introduction so you can know a little bit about who you're going to have the opportunity to interact with tonight. But I want to begin by saying a couple personal things. When I became dean about 6.5 years ago, I had the pleasure of meeting Stacy Rodgers. And I was introduced to her as the leader of the College of Public Affairs Advisory Board. And I immediately found a level of enthusiasm about public service, but also the University of Baltimore that I have rarely seen. To say the least, one of the biggest supporters of this university and the work of our students has been Ms. Rodgers. You are funny, you are warm, you are supportive, and you have given some of the most incredible advice and opportunities to our students. And some of you on here may have had the opportunity to receive some of that advice. Stacy, you are a friend and a dear member of our community. So I want to thank you up front for being with us. But I need to again say a few more words about your career so that students will be prepared to ask you questions a little bit later. And then we'll get started more formally on the interview and the journey. Stacy Rodgers has more than 30 years of experience in working with federal, state, and local government agencies and also nonprofit organizations where she has successfully designed, implemented, and overseen innovative programs and initiatives. In March 2019, Stacy became the first African American and only the second woman appointed to serve as the Baltimore County Administrative Officer, or CAO. She is responsible for directing the county's day-to-day operations alongside the Chief Executive Officer, Johnny Oshesky, providing oversight for the county's nearly $4 billion operating budget. Baltimore County, of course, is the third largest jurisdiction in the state of Maryland with a population of more than 850,000 residents. But one of the things that you're going to learn tonight too is that Stacy has served in almost every area of public service that you could possibly serve. So listen to this. Previously, Stacy served in senior executive roles at every level of government, including Director of the Baltimore City Department of Social Services, Deputy Director of Program Operations for the District of Columbia's Child and Family Services Agency, and Deputy Secretary for Programs for the Maryland State Department of Human Resources. Stacy also served, and get this, as the Chief of Staff for the United States Social Security Administration during the Obama administration, overseeing the day-to-day operations for the 64,000 member workforce and $12 billion budget of our Social Security Administration. One of the reasons, as you know, that I've selected Stacy and asked her to be our very first speaker is because for the students who are here from UB, as you can see, her background includes just about every area of policy work or field of work that you could possibly be interested in going into. And even though you might not hear on her resume, Chief of Police, I can assure you, and you're going to learn tonight, that she has worked with chiefs of police and law enforcement officers and in every area of criminal justice you could imagine, along with health and human services and government and nonprofit leaders. And just a little bit more in background, I wanted to mention too that Stacy is a graduate of the Harvard University John F. Kennedy School of Government's Executive Leadership Institute, the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, or NFBPA's Mentor Program and Executive Leadership Institute. She holds a B.A. degree in psychology from the University of Maryland, Baltimore. And remember what I mentioned a little bit earlier, people go into government from every major and every field. But we're most proud at the University of Baltimore, Stacy holds our master's degree in public administration from the University of Baltimore College of Public Affairs. There's so much more, but Stacy, I want to thank you and I want to welcome you to tonight's interview and thank you for being our inaugural speaker in Voices of Public Service.
Hey, Harley, thank you so much. You saw I had to laugh a little bit there because to our listening audience, which I see now is at 50, which is wonderful. People will think, well, wow, a lot of jobs. Was there a reason why she moved around? Could you not keep a job? But I do take management by humor very seriously as well, because these jobs are hard, and you every once in a while you have to laugh at yourself, or you know, find something funny every day. You have to have some sense of humor every day.
Stacy, thanks so much. And we're going to lead off with our first question from Dr. Ann Cotton. And I think what we plan to do is just kind of go back and forth, asking some initial questions that we've prepared, and then we're going to go off into where students take us.
Sure. Well, I just want to also say thank you both, Dr. Cotton and Dean Hartley, for your willingness to always, listen to my, I've got a great idea. Just want to run it past you. But also for your support in my various roles, because Dr. Cotton and I have been together for a while now. We've done some level of work in some manner, I know for the last 20 years, without question, the work and support that the University of Baltimore Schaefer Center brings to the field of public management is just unparalleled. I know people all over the country. So I just want to thank you for the support. And I'm deeply, deeply honored to serve as your inaugural guest. And I hope that I live up to that honor.
Well, welcome again, Stacy. So for our first question, tell us a little bit about your current position and what makes it the perfect position for you. It seems in talking to you, it's a little bit of everything and you're responsible for so much.
Exactly. That's why I laughed when Dean Hartley said that I worked with or, have some interaction with police chiefs. Oh, yeah. Chief Melissa Hyatt and I talk on a regular basis. I have her on speed dial. Chief Hyatt is the chief of police here in Baltimore County and was also appointed in a historic appointment. She's the first female police chief to be appointed here in Baltimore County. So we're pretty proud of that as well. The job that I serve in is the County Administrative Officer. And the first question I always get is, well, what does the County Administrative Officer do? One thing, my job description is very clear. Like I like to say, water for crystal clear, because it is articulated in the county charter. The charter requires that I oversee day-to-day operation of county government. The county executive is the leader of our jurisdiction, but my responsibility is to ensure that county government runs efficiently and effectively. So in our structure, the department heads across the county report to me. That's our reporting structure. One of my primary responsibilities is oversight of the county's budget. We're right in the middle of budget development season for the FY 23 budget season that begins July 1st. So this is a very busy time of the year for the budget team and our department heads. In the absence, this is, I think, that the most important part of this job. In the absence of the county executive, or there was any reason that the county executive became incapacitated, could not do his job, I would become the county executive. Now, the ongoing joke is, I tell the county executive, and I call him Mr. CE, I tell him on a regular basis, Mr. CE, take very good care of yourself, because I don't want your job in any way, shape, or form. I do not want your job. But we have a wonderful working relationship, and I think that's what is one of the main reasons why this is the perfect job for me. The other reason why it's a perfect job, number one, this is my home county. I have lived in Baltimore County for almost upwards of 35, 40 years. because I came here to attend UMBC and just decided to stay. I've always lived here in the county. The other reason is this is my 7th tour of duty, as I call the various jobs that I've had, and 7 is the number of completion. And this will be that I am planning for success. I am planning to retire from this position. That's not that I wouldn't do other things, because I just have so many things I would love to do. And Dean Hartley knows that my love for students and mentoring, et cetera, will be something I would like to explore. But it's a historic position. As Dean Hartley said, I am the first African American to hold this role. And that's important to me because it's not just about me at this time in this place, but I'm setting the example. And hopefully I won't be the last person of color or woman to serve in this capacity. There are 24 jurisdictions in Maryland, and those are my peers who serve. There are peers who serve in these roles, and there's opportunity. And I say to students all the time, we're not going to be in these roles forever. We shouldn't be. We should aspire to retire and plan for retirement. But operating and managing a jurisdiction is an incredible responsibility. Working at the local level is really where the rubber meets the road. And we'll talk about that a little further in some of the other questions, where you really see how things get done and you make things happen. And you can be the change, which is a part of my mantra, is being the change. And from the standpoint of my own personal mission statement, helping others and serving, being a servant leader in all that I do, whatever role it is in.
Thank you so much, Stacy. One of the things I've loved about talking with you about over the last 6 years is how much you love making the ideas of elected leader real and work. And the job that you've done is implementing policy to make it have an impact. And so that's one of the things that I know that's going to come out today. But I have a different sort of question for you. It's kind of a broad one, and but one that's important to our students in our center. What made you to decide to go into public service back when you were younger or later in your career?
Well, I think that is a wonderful question, because I thought about it, and I went all the way back to my I guess teen years, or maybe early teen years, and working back then in my church, and people asking, well, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I can remember saying on several occasions, I'm not quite sure how I will do this, but I just want to help people. I would really like to, help people and make life better for people, which is why I chose my personal mission statement of helping people and serving. So it manifested itself in a way that's very interesting, because along the way, many people try to say, well, oh, you should consider being a nurse. You should consider being a teacher. You should consider being pursuing your MSW. And so when it came down to it, though, human services was the portfolio area that I found my ability to help. But here was the unique twist to it. With an M.P.A, you can work in any of those areas, and you can tailor what you do to your passion. You can tailor your desire to serve or make life better in a broad variety of ways, but having that advanced degree for any undergrads who are listening in is very important. And I have lots of friends who have MSWs and BSWs and the range of advanced degrees, CPAs. In jobs like these, you need all of those various disciplines to operate an effective organization or to run a government, which is my responsibility from day to day. I couldn't do that without the help of all of my colleagues who hold these different disciplines. But the linchpin is, as the leader, I have to know a little bit about everything. I have to understand the law. I have to understand, policy, budget, uh, reaching back with that psychology degree, and using that daily from just a day-to-day interaction, knowing how to counsel and think about it from a psychological standpoint, because you're dealing with folks. We're all people, and people are made up of whatever, however you wake up in the morning and come to work, all of that comes with you. So that's why I feel like an M.P.A is such um, a great way to uh, do what you want to do in your career with an advanced degree, as opposed to being in just one discipline. Like CPAs are in the finance part of operations, MSWs, are, love social workers. Many of my friends are social workers. People think I'm a social worker, but then people think I'm an attorney too. I get asked a lot of questions. So I'm a conglomerate of all of those disciplines based on having an M.P.A. So shout out to the M.P.A program.
Well, that's a great segue into our next question, which is, as we know, you earned your M.P.A from UB, and it would be good for our students to know what about that prepared you for the roles. You talked about the variety of skills that you need. So I'm curious about what concepts or skills you use the most. And I'm also curious about how you think a UB M.P.A stacks up against other degrees that people have in public service.
Oh my, well, that every time I'm asked that question, I always have to shout out Dr. Laura Wilson Gentry. If you've had Dr. Gentry, I know she may not be on with us this evening, but there were several professors at UB, and I'll say this, it took me 9 years to complete my degree, because life happens, but you have to maintain that dedication and discipline to finishing what you start. And I'm very much like that. Now, if I could just manage to stay on a exercise regimen and finish what I start, that would be good. And we'll talk about that a little later as well. But one thing is, from the classroom to application, a lot of the experiences that UB provides, it's broader than just book knowledge. I'll say that, and I have just enjoyed, as I've gone through my career, the interaction with UB, staying connected with the university for all these years. The 9 years of obtaining my degree, and now thereafter, because it's been, I was thinking about that the other day, it's been almost 20 years. I'm like, oh my God, that's a long time. But just UB provides you with the technical training, but it's also an environment where you feel nurtured. And for me, it's just evolved in a way that now the UB faculty and staff are colleagues, because when I need something done, or I'm researching something, then I have a resource to go to. And uh, what better place to go than your own university? Uh, I also think that it's an opportunity for me to share and give back in many ways, financially, uh, time, talent, but also expose students and provide opportunities for students. See, that's the paying it forward to either join us in here in county government through the Rosencrantz Fellows program, or through my professional association, which has played a significant role in my career, uh, to the degree that it just all feels like family, and not just you got your degree, you went away, and it's done. So everybody knows that I love UB. I have my little bee sitting on my desk. So I hope that answered that.
Great. Thanks, Stacy. And just one quick thing, Laura Wilson Gentry is on, and
Oh, okay.
she typed in the chat, hello to one of my most memorable students. So I just wanted to share that in case you didn't see the chat, because you've been talking and I've been talking. Well, I have the next question, and actually it's very much about giving advice to students. What suggestions do you have for our students about how to make the most of their college experience?
Well, students who are enrolled now, I say to you, take advantage of the openness of the faculty and staff at UB. Um, Actually, I received my undergraduate degree from UMBC, but actually I transferred to UMBC from Ohio University in Athens, Ohio. I did my first 2 years in Athens, and I mean, literally, back then it was like 25,000 students, almost like the College Park experience. Then I came to UMBC, family situations in my family. Um, my mother relocated here to Baltimore, and I was like, okay, I'm out here in Appalachia by myself in this big place. So I went to transfer to UMBC, and then I came to UB in as a working adult student with a young family. UB is just a unique environment, uh, more than just your classwork. And I'm just so impressed. I have friends across the country, and you know how you get into these debates. My university is better than your university, but I can say definitively that the School of Public Affairs is dedicated to public service. And if you're enrolled in a program, a undergraduate program or a master's program, then you're being groomed for public service, because clearly government work, particularly in our region, is like a main industry. Here in Baltimore County, we are home to two of the largest, three now with the FBI division in Woodlawns. We have Social Security, 16,000 people on that campus. And then you have CMS, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid in Woodlawn as well. And then the FBI. So you got that federal piece. Then you've got state and local government, as we talked about here in Baltimore County, the third largest jurisdiction in Maryland. You've got Baltimore City. So you know, UB sits in the heart of the city. It plays an incredible role. There are many opportunities to engage beyond just book knowledge, and the variety of ways that you can engage. So I think for me, looking at how you take advantage of those benefits from a unique university, unique school, the School of Public Affairs, and Dean Hartley, I'm so glad that the series is opened up to um, other parts of the university so they can see how things are done in the School of Public Affairs, because I feel like we do it right. I would also say make sure that as a student, explore the opportunity to do internships and fellowships as a student, because then you get a real feel for agencies. And we had the wonderful, wonderful experience with our Rosencrantz Fellow who had a predisposed position about government and not wanting to work in government. Well, at the end of the experience, she was like, wow, this really taught me how government runs and really the role that government plays in serving citizens from being with us for 2 semesters. So I say that that's an important part. And then the third very important ingredient is engaging in a professional association. And I have to give a great shout out to Dr. Lanil Henderson, who's no longer there at the university, but played a major role in helping me to join a professional association. This was first semester M.P.A program. Dr. Henderson said to the whole class, you have to consider joining a professional association. And just to help you, I'll pay your first year's membership. He told the whole class. And you can join any program. You can join uh, uh, NAPA, you can join ASPA, M.P.A, lots of different organizations. And so, of course, I took him up on it. Fast forward 30 plus years later, having completed the mentor program and the Executive Leadership Institute of the National Forum for Black Public Administrators, I'm in the succession line for the presidency of that organization. And we're the largest African American public management association in the nation. So I'm also a member of ICMA, which is the International City County Managers Association. So in that association, you're getting exposed not just to colleagues across the nation, you're getting exposed to colleagues across the world. Because don't think that trash problems is just a US thing, or water systems, or policing, or human services. It's not just an American thing, that's a world thing. The pandemic, even, the response to a global pandemic, having that avenue of interaction with diverse thoughts and people from all over the globe. So I say that's a must. If it's not on your to-do list, I ask that you think about it and do it today.
Stacy, thanks. And I wanted to break in with one thing, and it'll sound like a little bit of a commercial to the students, but picking up on what you said about professional associations and what Dr. Henderson did for you, you've actually, and our colleague alums have actually helped do this for our students going forward. So I just wanted to mention to the students here this evening that the college has a student professional development fund. It's on our webpage under engagement. You can apply to get funding to join a professional association, to attend a professional meeting, like say maybe the Maryland Association of Counties or the Maryland Nonprofits. And some of our faculty have had their students tap into this funding to present research and papers at national conferences. And that is from the generosity of our board, of which Stacy is president, as well as alums across the region who have contributed to it. So we really care about professional associations and what they can do for your career. So sorry for the commercial, but I just couldn't miss the opportunity to say we're continuing that. And Dr. Henderson is not only still with us, helping us sometimes as an adjunct professor, but we honored his career. Our alums dove in and supported this as well with a scholarship in the name of Dr. Lynell Henderson. And the first scholarship I'm aware of at the university named after an African-American professor. So Dr. Henderson is very much with us and is an amazing man. Anne, you want to kick off the next question?
Well, I also have to do one thank you to you, Dean Hartley. Last winter, during the height of the pandemic, the M.P.A sponsored a virtual training called Building Blocks, and I reached out to Dean Hartley and said, Dean Hartley, would you do a matching grant with me for UB students? I'll put up monies to fund 5 students if you will put up 5. So that's why I say I always come with these ideas and you know, the ideas to say, well, it's a good idea for the students, will we do it? And I'm willing to chip in my share of resources, but I want to thank you for your willingness to do that and match my personal grant, which allowed a number of UB students to participate in building blocks. And I think I see one, Brittany Green said she was one of the students, but that exposure to this new world, and that's my little metaphor for Queen Isabella, the world really is round. You got to get beyond just what we know. And I say that to staff here where professional development was not emphasized. But I'm so pleased what ties it back to UB that we were able to work through the budget process and put money into our Department of Human Resources that will allow county government staff each year, not just a one and done, each year to participate in the CPM program. And we funded 4 out of that budget, and it got so competitive that a couple other departments said, well, can we still participate if we pay ourselves? I said, absolutely, the more the merrier. Because once you get into your career, you want to look for other professional opportunities for professional growth and development. So the CPM program is definitely one that's there as well. And employers are looking to invest and grow our leaders. You know, we have to focus on succession planning and developing leaders from within as well.
Thanks.
Thanks.
And I'll let you do the commercial for certified public manager.
And we're so appreciative of your support of the program. I know we had talked about it for a couple of years of trying to get it going. So I'm glad you hung in there with us, and we're so excited about it.
Tried to do it in Baltimore City, but didn't get to stay long enough to embed it. But
so that kind of brings me to the next question. You've held positions in state government, local government, federal government, and lots of people think that their career path is linear in one agency or in one branch of, or, you know, one level of government. Tell us a little bit about the different positions you've held and how did you find the next opportunity? Because they're not logical steps to someone that's not looking from the outside.
Right. Really great question, Dr. Cotton. So I want to talk about it from the standpoint of something that was said to me early in my career. There's a civil service path, but then there's also an appointed path. In many of the jobs I've held, they have been appointed positions. Now, I'll say appointed positions do come with some risk because they are tied to often elected positions. But in the senior leadership in organizations, like whether it's a department at the federal, state, or local, the leader of that organization appoints their cabinet or their directors. So that's how some of these positions become appointed. I was groomed early on to consider appointed positions because as you develop your skills and expertise in certain areas, you can be sought after for those skills and expertise. And really sharpening your skills in certain areas so that as you go through your career, if there are opportunities for appointed positions, and you should consider that, um, then you can go through the appointed track. Most of my positions have been by invitation, I will say that, but that did not mean that I did not have to compete. When you're invited to interview for a job or invited to a position, someone either highly recommends you for that job, or the person who is uh, inviting you is saying, I want you to compete. So I've competed for the jobs, not that I didn't have to interview. Like this job, I was highly recommended to the county executive who had just been appointed. And it's really interesting. I was like, okay, because I didn't see myself in the city county manager track. My aspirational position actually for a long time was secretary of the Department of Human Services, the agency that I came from. But my career took me in so many different paths. I'm like, wow, there's a whole lot of options out here to use my skills. But having solid managerial skills, people skills, budget skills, analytical skills, technological skills, or understanding uh, of technological skills. And so many times I feel like I have to go back and apologize to Tom Darling. Dr. Darling gave us a project where we had to develop and stand up a website. And I was like, why on earth would we have to do this? It was like one of those wax on, wax off things. And so in the midst of it, we did it, and I struggled and I got it, stood up. But then later he said, as a leader, you might not do it. However, you are going to have to make decisions about hiring people who do certain things. So you need to understand it. You absolutely need to understand what it is that a consultant will come in and tell you, and make sure you're not being sold snake oil. So, Tom Darling, I owe you a can of Jolt. Used to drink Jolt in class, but again, a lesson learned that we're looking here, but he was really trying to have us look beyond that. So, in these jobs, okay, I'll start out at the beginning. I worked in state government and moved up through management positions in the Department of Human Resources, actually. And that's what we said, I would love to be the leader of this organization someday. So then went on to district government, which was a really good learning experience. And if you have an opportunity to work in um, um, DC government, you'll find a unique situation doesn't exist anywhere in the country where your budget is actually approved twice. It's approved by DC City Council, but then it has to be approved by Congress because technically the way DC was originally established, it was a unit of the federal government. So how things happen there, it's just a laboratory for learning. So I encourage students, if you have an opportunity to experience DC, but I say go do it and then, take that great learning and, move around if that's the kind of career path you're on. So my favorite job, and I wish you all could see, my favorite job was Social Security. And I'll tell you why. At Social Security, that organization, which I feel is very well run, very, well established, over 80 years old. I was there for the 80th anniversary, had the pleasure of chairing Social Security's 80th anniversary celebration. But at that level, you are impacting public policy decision making nationally. You're touching millions of people based on this public policy decision making. So that's why I think That particular job was great. Also, that job allowed me to interface literally with leaders from across the nation. And what I learned, coming from the local level, going to the federal level, at the local level, I said, why does it take the feds so long to pass regs, interim regs or years sometimes? But once I got there, I realized, let's think about this. When you're running a national program like Social Security, you have to interface with all of the government entities across the nation. And so policies interface and play out differently. So I look at it like, okay, the Fed is like the big iceberg, whereas the local level are the ice cubes, because you've got to take that public policy issue and overlay it on state policy and state rule, really, because there are a lot of public policy issues that occurred while we were there that we had to really work diligently to align them with state law. So, but the reason why it was great is because you could see a national program playing out at the local level. And that's when one of the policies I'm talking about is when we had to implement Social Security benefits for same gender couples. Amazing technical things that we had to do. And it was hard because in some parts of the country, states were resistant to that. But we did it. So, and then working for President Obama and First Lady Obama was just incredible in itself. To have the ability, and this is why I say, as you look at your career, where you can go or want to go, the senior executive service at the federal level is like, the top level of decision makers, and many of those positions are appointed. We had direct access to the President of the United States. Imagine that. My funniest story about President Obama, my husband is there, and my husband's on. He'll remember this. We were at the little Christmas celebration. He said, "You guys, eat as much as you want, drink as much as you want, but don't take the silverware, because it doesn't belong to me. It belongs to the people of America." So here you are interacting with the president, cracking a joke like that. So it was just, oh my goodness. I'll remember those 6 years. Well, I'll remember all of it forever, but those 6 years are very special.
Stacy, thanks. And another shout out to a division on our campus in student success and student support. University of Baltimore has a mentoring program where faculty and alums and other students can sign up to mentor other students. But I wanted to ask a question of you, two-part. Part one is, what is the value of mentoring to you? And then perhaps some advice on how students might more effectively network, or the value of networking. So mentoring and networking.
Okay, well, I have been extremely blessed when it comes to mentoring. Through my professional association, the first level of training and grooming in that in the organization is our mentor program. It's one of our flagship programs. I was assigned to a woman named Carolyn W. Colvin, and many of you may have heard her name before. Mrs. Colvin was the secretary. Started out, she was the deputy director of the health department in the city, then transitioned to the state during the Schaefer administration, was the secretary of the Maryland State Department of Human Resources, which is now Human Services. I was assigned to her, and I'll never forget the first day I met her, and she said to me, "I don't know why I committed to do this. But something tells me that I should do this, and I'm going to give you the very best exposure that I can. And my job and role is to groom you for senior leadership. So by the time I retire, you can replace me in public management. So I was there at the Department of Human Resources with Mrs. Colvin. Went over to the District of Columbia and was her chief of staff. And this was in the early 2000s. I did two tours of duty in the district. Then I went over to Montgomery County, and I was the director, customer service and performance management. Then we parted. She went to a private opportunity, and I came back to the state as the chief of staff of the Maryland State Department of Human Resources. Then ultimately the deputy secretary of human resources. So I got all the way to the second position in that organization. But then Mrs. Colvin invited me to come to Social Security as her senior advisor, and then ultimately the chief of staff. So that's what I mean about, that invitation, position by invitation. So now my job is to do the same. And I'm pleased to say I have a young woman that I mentored, found that she was incredible. So she has traveled with me for the last two tours of duty. Mrs. Colvin and I stayed together for 26 years. So I told my special assistant, whose name is Savitra, and everyone who knows anything about me knows that Savitra is a wind beneath my wings. I said, Savitra, I don't have 26 years to give you, but I have about 10 if you want to go along for the journey. So you have to pay it, forward and give back. And my job now, between now and retirement, is to touch as many students and groom as many students for leadership as I can, just as Mrs. Colvin poured into me before she retired, because by the time I retire, I should have touched a number of individuals to be able to step into these roles, because these roles will be here. We need qualified, ethical, committed, passionate leaders in these roles.
Thank you.
So I have lots of mentees here and there.
Fantastic.
We're going to move ahead a little bit in our questions to ask about, you talked a little bit about it, but what has been your most gratifying aspect of public service? And it sounds like grooming the next generation of leaders is something that brings you a lot of gratification. And then what do you find most frustrating?
You're right. Grooming is definitely where I am. I think from the frustration side, I'd have to say candidly how social media, sometimes members of the media take information and distort it in a way that's very troubling for me, because we as leaders, we hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards. We work hard to always operate in our authority. The one question that staff hear me say consistently, and now they say it, and I'm glad, by what authority are we taking this action, or by what authority can we do what we're doing? Just like with the pandemic and, masking requirements and, the things that we wanted to do. The CE says things he wants to have done, but then it comes back to my level to operationalize it. You always have to know by what authority you operate. So that's how we operate. I mean, literally, I feel like that's our Hippocratic oath as M.P.As, to always operate ethically and with the best interest of the citizenry. But the media can take and distort things without fact checking, without really saying, or even giving equal, I'll say even giving equal opportunity to address certain issues. And it's disappointing because, we take a lot of heat in these jobs. And that's something that if you're going to go to this level, or you aspire to go to this level, you know what you sign up for, and this is just a part of it. But I just find it unconscionable that the media can just say whatever or use what I call, well, what I've been told is called clickbait. They put a picture up, put a title, and then people gravitate. This happened to me recently, and I was very offended. We had an inspector general report that really talked about something that we're dealing with. The article, if you really read it, was talking about something that we were proactively doing, something we inherited. But the title of the article initially said, "Criminals Found Working in Baltimore County Government." My picture on it. So tell me why my picture, now they'd never used my picture before, but why would you put my picture over a title like that? So I guess because some people called me about it, I guess they got some feedback. So what they did, to change the title. They didn't take my picture down, but they changed the title that said, a report suggests that many Baltimore County employees had not had background checks. That was true. And if you read into the article, you found that we, the Olszewski administration, we have addressed that prospectively. The people who had not been criminal background check were prior. And then when you're making resource decisions about stuff, we didn't have the resources or the infrastructure to go back and background check 3,000 people. We had to go forward and check people coming, and then we'll catch up with some of those at promotions, etc. So when you see things like that, it's disheartening because you're trying to do a good job, but the media twists things in a way, and the public doesn't know, and the public's not going to read a long, long, long inspector general report. So that's just my little pet peeve.
Thanks, Stacy. Really appreciate it. What I thought I would do now is open it up for questions from our audience, from students and faculty. With a couple shout outs to a couple folks who are on the on tonight. Want to thank Matt Scassaro for his incredible work on our board, and also for helping on a subcommittee that helped develop our speaker series. I'm really appreciative of you, Matt, and helping with our questions tonight. Also, shout out to Dr. Heather Wyatt Nicole, who's here, and in addition to that, I really, really appreciate Lakeisha Matthews and the Career and Internship Center is with us. And thanks to Dr. Lori Naylor for bringing several of her classes to this event today as well. I know I'm missing people. Nicole Morano's been here. Thank you for coming. So we have some other questions, but I really wanted to get to student questions. We have one in the chat so far, Q&A from Jessica Smith. Jessica, thanks. Stacy, how do you build your experience to be able to get appointed to a position? What's the trick to getting appointed to a position?
Working on, volunteered to work on various types of work groups. At the state level, there are lots of work groups. There are lots of commissions. Looking at the positions that are a lot of times you see positions, they'll say non-merit positions. So those are appointed senior level positions, really making yourself known in your field as an expert for what you do, a SME, as they call it, subject matter expert, contributing to research and articles, again, through through professional associations. There's opportunities to present papers, to present at conferences, and really, finding your niche where you can say, I'm an expert in that. And for this generation, using your LinkedIn, account to say, I'm a subject matter expert in X. But some of it takes, getting out there and exposing yourselves. Also, I would suggest that you do informational interviews in different agencies to learn about, different programs and different things you're interested in, and have a target job of where you want. Like I said, for many years, that was my goal, and I did compete for the job a couple times. Came in second, the runner up. But I also know that timing and where I'm supposed to be in life is definitely, laid out for me by a much higher calling. So I am where I am because this is where I'm supposed to be. But explore what's out there, beyond just what you may think. Look at agencies. The summer students who come to us, I have them. First of all, we talk about the charter, and it seems boring, like the wax on, wax off. I tell them to look at all of the agencies and explore one that is interested to them, because little do they know that their role here, we're trying to orient them to public service so that they'll come back sometime and be considered for employment, because we've got to start early in the pipeline. But if you are currently in undergrad or grad, begin to explore. Go to the night in Annapolis. It's day now. Learn about what happens there. And I'll be so glad when we get back to in person so you can see what happens there, because that's another avenue. The elected role. I was heavily recruited to go that way. But I found that my passion was around administering the law and operationalizing the visions of the electeds, and staying there. But lots of ways to try to, spread your wings so that you are become recognized as a subject matter expert. And we have several students who've done that I can think of, and they've gone on in their careers.
So our next question comes from Dr. Heather Wyatt Nickel.
Hi, Dr. White.
Yeah. So she wanted to know if you had any weaknesses with soft skills, and if so, what did you do to develop in those areas?
I think I can't say it was fear of talking, because I've been a talker since a toddler, but I think in an area of becoming comfortable, particularly in these roles where you have to present before the media. I have taken some training around presenting for the like at press conferences, because in this job I find myself being asked to present on behalf of the county executive or in conjunction with him. So that was one thing, just really sharpening that skill of what happens with the media, what can happen with the media. So that, I think communication is always a soft skill. Believe it or not, I was a little shy in the beginning, which is a funny story too. When Secretary Colvin appointed me to her senior leadership team, I was the youngest person, absolutely youngest person. And I was intimidated by the people in the room. So then fast forward 10, 12 years later, when I came back to the Department of the Chief of Staff, as the Chief of Staff, I was running the meeting. So just that confidence, having that confidence that you do have the ability to do the work. I think the other soft skill is definitely uh, maintaining your composure. That this all of it's like related to communication, but it was a commercial years ago. Never let them see you sweat, even when it gets very, very heated and tense. And I'll say sometimes with the unions, sometimes with disgruntled members of the community, it's your responsibility to maintain your composure, always be diplomatic and conciliatory. That's a responsibility of a leader in these roles. You just can't go out there and blast people. You just can't. But that's a
Stacy,
skill.
yeah, Stacy, thanks. I appreciate it. I'm going to go back to one of our prepared questions and then back into the chat and Q&A for others. But this is, I think, a good one for our students as well. And it's kind of two-part again. What advice do you have for our students just starting out in their public service career? And then, does this advice change for mid-career professionals who feel like they're kind of in a slump and want the next challenge?
For which we define as emergent leaders, you're in your first few years in the workforce. Be open to the possibilities. I will say that because you'll start out in your career. When I look back at undergrad, I really thought that I was going to be a community clinical counselor. That's that was my Strong Campbell vocational assessment. Had all these various things that I could do. And so I said, okay, well, I think I like this because I like trying to help people and do it that way. But now fast forward, 40 years, and I still help people in this job, and I still have to listen. I do the same thing, but it manifested itself in, total different ways. So be open. Also explore the possibilities of other kinds of training. I strongly encourage technological training because you have to have a command of technology. The other thing is analytic skills. In every job, every role, project management, data analytics, everyone needs to arm themselves with those skills. So make sure that you supplement your core courses with those kinds of courses, with your elective courses, because data drives everything. We have to be able to make data informed decisions, and that's just not cliche. That is the truth. Every decision that I have to make to be able to recommend to the county executive, whether it's when is it time to stop our masking in our buildings, when is it time to discontinue a mandatory testing program, everything is driven by data. Where do we distribute in the community test kits? I mean, everything has to have that foundational data piece. So students, especially undergraduate students, get as many analytic courses in as you can, and then, like I said, explore, because the world of public management, especially if you're pursuing an M.P.A, is so broad and can go in so many different ways. But then begin to narrow down what you want to do based on your passion, based on what really drives you, what really wakes you up in the morning, makes you want to run in there and get it done. And I still feel that way most days. But I'm a little older, so need a little more sleep.
It's a segue to our next question, which is from Jacqueline Strickner Case. She's saying that she went back to school to work in government and public policy as part of her current job. And she wants to remain active in retirement, which she's approaching. But she wants to know, what are you looking to do in retirement? Knowing you, I know that you have a full plate.
Well, I want to teach some. I feel like being able to have opportunities to take these 40 years of by the time it's all said and done, take this knowledge and share with the next generation, very focused on, ensuring that the next generation is prepared, well prepared, and are not blindsided by things, making sure that you know the right questions to ask. Because even now, I have to make sure, number one, everybody knows by what authority are we trying to get this done? Are we operating in our authority? Have you read for yourself the regulations? Because everything is grounded somewhere in enabling legislation, regulations, standard operating procedure. Somewhere in the government, we have to function within, these structures. That's government, and that you have to ensure, this equity and accountability and transparency pieces. So that's why I think it's always been my desire to do that. The other thing is spend more time with my grandchildren, because they ask me almost every other week, Grammy, when are you retiring? So that's a part of what I want to do. I also want to be a part of the public policy discussion, how NAPA has public policy discussion and talk about issues that are important to me, equity, diversity, inclusion from a public policy white paper standpoint. So doing some things like that, and I may even write a few case studies. I remember being at Harvard reading all these case studies. I'm like, who wrote this? And I said, hey, one day maybe I can write a case study or two. So that's right now. I've got 4 years, 9 months, and 31 days to think about it. And
Down
people
to the
say,
minute.
well, you got to count down. Well, yes, because appointees, we definitely know date specific. So the end of the second term, we're planning for success, is December 8th, 2026. So I know. So I have to work with purpose and intensity to get stuff done. Same thing with the Obama administration. You pulled us in the room and said, we got X amount of days. I need you to go back to your agencies and tell me what you're going to deliver. So the same thing in this job. You just know that. But then I've got a plan too for what I'm going to do next. And I'm a planner. I'm very planful.
Thanks, Stacy. And I know you had a question of your own, and there's more in the chat. We'll get to as many as we can, everyone, and we really appreciate it.
Oh, so we got 10 minutes. Wow, this time went quick.
I know. it's
I've
great.
known you for a long time, and you always seem so even and balanced and just kind of cool and collected. So I think one thing our students would like to know, especially those balancing career, school, family, how do you balance the stress, such a stressful job, and maintain a personal life and outside interest? And what advice do you have for others trying to do the same?
Well, if I have to, you know how you give yourself your personal report card. I give myself a failing grade on that. I don't feel that I've done that well, and particularly over the last 2.5 years with the pandemic, it's been stressful. I try to encourage my team, but I don't feel I did what I needed to do for myself. And now it's manifesting itself. But there's always the opportunity to get back on track. But when your doctor threatens to call your boss, you know you're in trouble. But from the standpoint of you got to find time, let me be serious about it. You have to find time, particularly as you get older, to decompress. because you do carry the stress with you. You don't realize you carry it with you. But if you're dreaming about work and it's like 24/7, and I know my husband is on here saying, "Oh my God, she really just she she really needs to just fess up. I don't do a good job. I just like work all the time." But you can't, because there are other things in life. You have to set some boundaries. You have to work with your staff. I mean, there are times in these jobs where you just have to respond, like the police chief, the fire chief, my job. If there's a crisis, we're on 24/7, 365, but you should be able, and this is something my doctor told me, which is so profound. If you can't find 30 minutes in the day to dedicate to yourself somewhere during the day, then there's something terribly wrong, because you're giving away more to others than in denying yourself. And if something happens to you, then they'll have your position description in the paper before your obituary is done. But I will say I have a wonderful uh, staff, small staff, but they try really hard to help me balance. We set some boundaries, and I have a wonderful, and Ernest, I know you're on and listening, so I'm saying this publicly. I have a wonderful husband who has supported me for so many years, and he knows I'm a workaholic. I wish there was a Workaholics Anonymous program that I could enroll in. But I'll tell you one other thing. We've developed our own little society here, especially those of us who had to do a lot of the COVID work. I don't know if you can see this. See, it's a little swan. We're the Swan Society. So what's the joke about that? That you have swans that just glide across the lake. So this last project we called Operation Swan Lake, because it was hard to make it happen. The CE, you know, sets a vision, and then we've got to implement. So Swan Lake was that we're gliding, but our feet are under the water doing like this. So, but just in all sincerity, don't miss doctor's appointments. Keep doctor's appointments. Take 30 minutes for your self. Have an exercise routine. Address your nutrition, sleep, hydration. They sit water in front of me all day long, because sitting for hours and hours in front of a computer, you forget to drink. You may not eat on a regular schedule, and some quality time with your family. Turn it off, turn it down, shut the laptop. Um, and surprisingly, it'll still be there when you come back. Hard for me to do sometimes, but I'm to the point now that I have to. If not, it has negative consequences for me physiologically and emotionally.
That's really good advice. And thank you. And I was taking notes too. I think all of us were. Thank you so much.
We're in the Workaholics Anonymous Club. It's just hard, but when you're passionate about it, and I think about daily, I think about there's somebody out there that needs something done, but you know what? I got to think about, I need some time for me. There's a quote somewhere that says, saying no is not a negative. It's not a negative. You have to know your saturation point.
Yeah, thanks. There's still more in the chat, and we have a little bit of time left. I have Matt and I joked about coming up with some really interesting Actors Guild type studio questions, and he put one in chat, which is kind of like that. Who is your hero and why?
Okay. My mother was my hero growing up because she's a single parent. Everybody who knows me. I'm a coal miner's daughter from Western Pennsylvania, but my parents were divorced, and my mother uh, single-handedly raised me and three other siblings. Just making it happen. So I was in the junior miss pageant when I was a junior in high school, and they asked me that same question. I said, my mom, and they got a round of applause. So since then, I would say my hero is Mrs. Colvin. Uh, just learning at her knee. I have two pictures. I'm looking at them right now of one when I first met her, when we were paired, and one at the end of the Obama administration. And they're like my inspiration because I was with this woman for 26 years and saw how she did just that. She did the Swan Lake. She did that. And I always said to her, if I could be half the administrator and leader that you are, I would be satisfied. So fast forward, we talk on a regular basis. She's now my consultant, if you will. When anything happens, I'll run it past. And she says, you are more than half of the administrator um, I was. And, your commitment is just incredible. So I look to her. I tell everyone we look alike too. People always thought that we were related, which turned in the District of Columbia. Funny joke turned into an Inspector General investigation that I was related to her. So stuff happens. So those are our little jokes that we think about. But she poured everything into me, and now I am here in this just awesome position for this appointed time, helping County Executive Olszewski build a better Baltimore County. And I couldn't be more pleased. And he's just such a joy to work with. But we both, we greet each other daily over text, and we both are passionate about the work, but we both have, you know, considerable respect for each other, and care deeply about this community and are committed to leaving it better than we found it, because that's what you're supposed to do.
Stacy, thanks so much. I know we're at the end of our time, and I just wanted to say some parting words to everyone. But first of all, a special thank you to you for joining us for this inaugural beginning of our of what's going to be a long speaker series for many years to come. You were fantastic. We really enjoyed your company, and I can't wait to see what you do next. And again, big thanks. I want to thank Dr. Ann Cotton. Ann, thank you for your leadership on bringing this series about, and members of our board, and certainly to each and every one of our students and faculty and leaders across our campus that participated tonight. Thank you for coming out. Public service is among the highest of callings, and the purpose of this series is to give you an introduction to what different careers can look like in public service. Want to also leave you with, write this down, and you're going to see some advertisements for our next speaker, but our next date is March the 9th. It's a Wednesday. It's from 4 to 5:30. And our next speaker will be Donald Fry, who is currently the president and CEO of the Greater Baltimore Committee. And Don Fry is also an alum of the UB Law School, and he was a member of the House of Delegates as well as our state Senate. So please write that down for our next Voices of Public Service series. But Stacy, thank you so much for everything you've done for our university. You were fantastic tonight, and we really appreciate you.
Well, to whom much is given, much is required, but UB prepared me to sit in this seat. absolutely, and be confident in my ability to govern with excellence, integrity, and passion. So I thank you all, and students, I say to you, you're at one of the best universities you could be at, because it's more than just a learning institution. It's a growing institution as far as helping you to grow, and then it's a loving institution, meaning that you can have a lifelong relationship and continue to feel that love after graduation. So we hope that you will stay connected, and to the B, long live UB.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Stacy,
much,
so much.
Stacy.
All right, take care, everyone.
Take care,
Good night,
everyone.
everyone.
Thanks to Lakeisha Matthews of our Career and Internship Center. Students, go over there and join them. They do great work. Thank you, everyone. Good night.
Bye.
Good night.